In today's show, we're talking all things Nike Hoop Summit. It's a bunch of NBA players, future NBA players, are going to be in Portland this week, and Reggie Walker of Primetime Sports is going to join the program to tell us who we need to see. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. And today's episode is a very, very special one. We are joined by promoter and director of Primetime Sports, the man who runs the Les Schwab Invitational and had his fingers all in youth basketball, all parts of youth basketball here in Portland, my friend Reggie Walker. Reggie, how you doing?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so you've got a big week this week. The Nike Hoop Summit is back after a delay. What, for those of you who don't know, the Nike Hoop Summit is a single game, international prospects versus Team USA, 12 players on each team. Typically, you're seeing 5 to 8 future NBA players. Sometimes it's even more loaded than that. But I would say in general, you're seeing about five future NBA players on the court. It's happening Friday night, April 8th at the Moda Center. You can go sit Gucci Row for $200, or you could just get in the building for $10. Support Reggie. Go ahead and buy those Gucci Row seats for $200. But get in the building, see like true future stars. Reggie, before we talk about who to watch, can you just talk us through like what is, they're here for a week. What does the week look like building up to Friday's game?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the event, more than anything, we're just excited to have the event back this year after missing the last two. Just the way the calendar fell with the, with the pandemic, we had to cancel the game in 2020. It was set to be in April of 2020. Obviously, the world kind of shut down March 2020, so that affected that game. And that game would have had, the top 5 picks from last year's draft. You're talking Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, and Jalen Suggs, like all would have represented Team USA in 2020. So it was kind of a bummer to not have that game. And then in 2021, we also canceled. Obviously, the event falls in April, so we missed a second year, and that game would have had Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith and Paolo Banchero would have been on the world team. So you're talking probably 3 out of the top 5 picks in this year's upcoming draft. So it's just, we're excited to have the game back, and kind of to answer your question about the week. So the two teams, there's a world team and a United States team, and the U.S. team is a bunch of players that are representing USA basketball. So it's the junior national team, senior national team being, Kobe Bryant and, LeBron James and Kevin Durant, the gold medal teams from, the last few Olympics. This is like the next crop of USA stars. So that they're, the junior national team is kind of like ran by USA basketball. And then the world team is comprised of players from all over the world under the age of 19 at the Blazers practice facility and then over on the Nike campus. And they oftentimes will have, interpreters or, Nike reps with them to kind of help them, manage being a part of a team with, guys that maybe speak 5 or 6 different languages. The head coach of the team, Roy Rana, does a really good job kind of like building the team camaraderie and making sure that they know what's at stake in terms of, their future and what this game can do for them. And you just look at like Dirk Nowitzki is a kind of a prime example from back in the day. He really solidified himself as like a first-round draft pick with his performance in the game. Similar to what, Joel Embiid did something similar, more recently. And basically they just, they spend the week practicing. The practices are open to NBA scouts. I think we credential, over 130 NBA scouts get credentialed. Throughout the week, we'll have as many as, 24 general managers that pop in and out of Portland just to come evaluate the prospects. So they can really do a name for themselves. And the thing that I think that goes maybe unmentioned to the general, casual basketball fan is that this game isn't really an all-star game. I mean, It is in the sense that the players are all-star caliber and they're the elite of the elite players, but the game is meaningful. But neither team wants to lose the game. The world is, trying to claim their reputation as like, individuals, but also like playing a part of the team that they've, kind of invested in for the past week. And then the US, like they treat this like they would, a FIBA game,
right,
or, an Olympic qualifying game. I mean, this is meaningful to them as well. We keep the record of the game. People remember who won and lost the game. Whereas like a McDonald's All-American game or Jordan Brand Classic, like All-Star game, those are more just kind of like, they have, Drake or Migos or, Lil Baby or, whoever like perform at halftime. Like we would never do that. This is like a serious game that the stakes are high. So it's a cool deal, and we're really lucky to have it.
Yeah, and during this cycle of the spring, when it's like, okay, you've played a McDonald's All-American game and you kind of had fun, and it's a little week of fun, and then the way it works this year, I believe the Jordan Brand Classic is next week. It's after this one, but like typically you get them, both of those, which are kind of not that serious, and then you get this one. It's like, okay, you're putting a jersey on that matters. Like we want to beat this international team. It's way more competitive.
Totally.
And the week is way more competitive. I've never seen so many dudes with Bluetooths on their ears than when you sit in on a Nike Hoop Summit practice, and you've got the whole international agent world just working the phones, watching their guys, trying to get guys there. This is where I first saw Bismack Biambo. Obviously not like a star in the NBA, but he's going to play a decade in the league. He dominated Anthony Davis in this game. He was physically more dominant than Anthony Davis, and it helped him get a job with Michael Jordan. It's a big week for these folks.
Absolutely.
And it's mostly it's typically the incoming senior class. So it's guys who are 2020 the year graduating class 2022 for their high school, but there are some 2023 guys. I want to ask you who to watch because we kind of got the vibe of it, and it's fun. Like it's not, the practices aren't open to the public. You have to be lucky enough to get in there, but they're really fun to watch if you get in there. It's where I remember seeing guys like Bobby Portis, and I'm like, all he does is play hard as hell and jack up 19-footers.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
All he does.
Yeah, that's what he does.
And it's
now.
like all he does now is he plays hard as hell and he jacks up 19-footers. He was the same at 17 when in the first 7 minutes of practice. So those are really fun. But when you get to the game, it's super competitive. Let's talk about who to watch in the second segment. But first, I want to tell my listeners about Prize Picks. It is the NBA's daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. You pick 2 and 5 players. You make your entry. You're just picking over/under on the projections. So those projections are points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. It's not you versus pros. It's not you versus the field. It's just you versus those over/under lines. You can win up to 10 times on every entry. You can make an entry in 60 seconds. If you don't want to just do NBA, you can do whatever it is you might want to do. Like literally every professional sport, even college sports if you're nasty. So I've really enjoyed playing Prize Picks. I bet you will too. And if you go right now, they're giving away basically free money. You sign up today, use the promo code NBA, and a player on your very first entry scores 1 point. You'll get $50 deposited into your account. Use the promo code NBA. Pick who's going to score on the Blazers. Who can I say is going to score on the Blazers? Greg Brown III. He's Greg Brown III. You put Greg Brown on there. He's going to get a bucket. You're going to get a free $50. It used to be easier to predict that Anthony Simons was going to score. The Blazers have made that part of the promo a little bit harder. But go to Daily Prize Picks, prizepicks.com. Use the app. Download it in the App Store. Visit their website. Prizepicks.com. It's daily fantasy made easy. Today's show is also brought to you by betonline.net, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. You could have lost some money betting on the underdog Tar Heels last night. It happens to the best of us. A wonderful season for my beloved Tar Heels, and they were dogs for a reason. The favored team won. I'm still sad about it, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop betting on sports. Whatever you're looking for. NBA, you can bet on the NFL draft. You can bet on the NHL's end of the regular season and the playoffs. You can soccer. You can bet on tennis. Whatever it might be, go to Bet Online. Find more lines, more props, more odds. That's Bet Online, where the game starts. All right, we are still chatting here with director and promoter of the Nike Hoop Summit, and just a youth sports savant here in Portland. Reggie actually has been, if you were an eagle-eared listener to the Blazers broadcast, Lamar Hurd has shouted out Reggie a couple times because Lamar is plugged into the youth sports world in the Northwest. And if you're plugged into the youth sports world in the Northwest, you know Reggie because folks know Reggie. It just happens in the world. So people are going to call you all week, Reggie, and they're going to say, who should I watch in the Hoop Summit? I'm sure your phone is literally blowing up every single day. Who should I watch? How good is this kid? So give me some names. Who are you excited, and who should we be excited to watch this Friday evening at the Moda Center?
So I'll start with the world team, just because they've been in town since Sunday. I've seen them practice a couple times now. Jean Montero really stood out last night and actually this morning. He plays for the Overtime Elite. I don't know if they're a team or group or, he's part of the Overtime, like the new deal that they got going over there in Atlanta. Right. He's Dominican, like Dominican Republic is the country that he represents. He's like a little jitterbug guard, but he's tough and has like a little nastiness and knack to not let you push him around or anything like that, even though he is kind of sleight of frame. He shot it really well last night. He kind of controlled, they got up and down a little bit. I wouldn't call it a scrimmage, but they, played competitively for, 2 or 3 minute spurts here and there. And he definitely stood out, especially among the guards. And then there's a kid, I think he listed at 6'7" or 6'8". His name's MaKenzie Mgbako. He lives in New Jersey, plays AAU with the New Jersey Scholars, like on the Nike circuit. That they'll be one of the favorites to win Peach Jam this year. He's ultra competitive, great skill set, like incredible frame for a kid his age. I think he represents the country of Nigeria. I think he's got that in his bloodlines. He's definitely stood out this week. And then on the US side, it's pretty cool that there's a guy committed to Oregon, Kel'el Ware, who was awesome in the McDonald's All-American game and the McDonald's All-American week. He's physically imposing. I think he'll have success like right away as soon as the season starts at Oregon next year. He's just gone through the roof in terms of his evaluation on like the rankings. He's been as low as the mid 150s, and then he all of a sudden he's in the 60s, and I think now they're talking about he's going to end his senior year as a top 5 prospect. I think he'll be, if he stays on the right path and has a decent season at Oregon, like he'll be a one and done player. And I think Oregon will ask him to contribute right away. So just having that connection to the Ducks, having this game here in Portland is pretty cool. And Amari Bailey, who actually played in the Les Schwab for Sierra Canyon a few years ago, is, one of the alpha dominant personalities and like players for the US side. He carries himself like a professional. He's been around all the cameras and all the extra stuff, being a part of the Sierra Canyon kind of, that's as high profile as you get. It's
a Hollywood type high school. It's you get shouted out in a Drake song, and LeBron James sits at your games. It's a different experience. It's a quite a level of youth basketball, I'd say.
Exactly. So I think he's definitely one to watch. And I think one thing that we were talking about the other day, which is kind of is unique to this year, is a lot of the guys who maybe don't have the brand recognition with like your general basketball fan, haven't built their profiles up because of COVID, right? There wasn't like a normal high school season last year. There really wasn't like a culminating end of the high school season, like when they were sophomores. So their general profile maybe isn't as strong as like, Jason Tatum's was, or obviously Zion Williamson, but he's, kind of unique.
Right.
He's one of one, but these guys, they're still super talented. I think the game will be really competitive. Rosters seem pretty equal. The US guys probably have more size, which often, comes into play, but the world team is, they're not sleight of frame either. So I think it'll be a really competitive game. And like you said, we've got as few as 5 NBA players and maybe as many as, a dozen participating in the game this year. So if you want to see the next crop of players and, that are going to be stand out in college and eventually play in the NBA, like this is the game you got to attend.
Reggie, did you just not mention the 2 top Duke recruits because out of respect for me and the tough 24 hours I've had? Was this
I did. I was worried we were gonna have to cancel after going on last night. But I was watching the game, and there was a couple Carolina fans, going hard for the Tar Heels, obviously. But I think, hearing them talk after the game was over is like they won the war of the year, just having, kind of foiled Coach K's season.
Listen. I wanted Carolina to win last night. When they lost to Kansas, I was sad. But I'll say this. The greatest rivalry in sports, all of sports, miss me with your Yankees, Red Sox nonsense, and I don't care about Michigan and Ohio State. The greatest rivalry in sports was settled on Saturday night after it was settled on March 5th. We did it twice. They did it twice. Duke can have what they want. They can remind me that Carolina blew a 16-point lead in the national championship. I will be sad about it, but I never have to give back ending Coach K's career twice. I will live off that forever. The two Duke guys, though, Dereck Lively just won the MVP McDonald's All-American game. I don't exactly understand how that MVP works. I did not watch the game, but I did see the box score. He scored 10 points. I don't get it. But, he's the top recruit in the class. I might say his name wrong, but Filipowsky, the other big guy, Kyle Filipowski, he's, two really big dudes going to Duke. What have you liked from those two? Because those are probably NBA players.
Right. I mean, off physical frame alone, for sure. And they actually have a third guy, Dereck Whitehead, who is a guard, won the national championship at Montverde over the weekend. They won the Geico Nationals. So they kind of have a trio. We actually practiced at Coach K this morning on the Nike campus. So they, were taking pictures and doing the whole Duke thing and, talking to all the other kids just about how they're going to go and resurrect what happened this year and all that stuff, which was just cool, like banter amongst the kids.
Yeah.
All three. Duke doesn't recruit guys that they don't think are professional basketball players, especially like of this caliber, that play in McDonald's game, this game, the Jordan game. Filipowski, this is I saw him play in Peach Jam, but this is this morning was the first time seeing him up close. I mean, he is unique. He's huge, but he shoots it well, but he doesn't necessarily fancy himself as a shooter. I think he embraces his toughness and his ability to protect the basket. He's a unique guy, in a good way. I think he'll mold into something that the NBA will fancy. And then Whitehead is just a super steady. He has everybody's respect, in his class. I think that's a trait that maybe goes unnoticed to the common fan. Gary Trent had that in his class. He was the alpha of his grade. He wasn't the highest ranked player. I think Michael Porter was ranked higher than him, but when it came down to them interacting with each other and when they're in the hotel together, on the bus together, I think Dereck has everybody's respect and is carries himself to a certain way. And Trent definitely had that amongst his class.
Yeah, I think Trent played on that Hoop Summit team with Colin Sexton and Jaren Jackson Jr. He's playing with dudes who are going to go very high in the draft. So if they were listening to him, that I guess that gives you a good sense of sort of the soft stuff that goes into being a future NBA. I don't know if star is the right word, but a dude who's going to play a whole long time in the league.
No, and make a bunch of money and have a good career. And I mean, I wasn't surprised. I'm not surprised at all to see him having the success that he's having.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's a cool week, and I think again, the coaching staff and the folks at Nike and the people at USA Basketball, I think they do a really good job educating the players that the eyes are on them from the NBA evaluators lens, but also that this game is meaningful and that, that the stakes are high and that it's going to be a competitive game.
Yeah.
It's cool to see. And we'll culminate on Friday, which I think again will be a very good game and fun to watch.
Yeah. I want to, there's a legend of this week that rings out in the Portland area. You know what I'm talking about. I'm going to ask you about the legend.
I think I know where you're
and
going.
I'm going to talk. There's a legend of Hoop Summit practice I got to ask you about. But before I do that, I want to tell my listeners about rockauto.com. It's a place where you can save time and money. They've been helping do-it-yourselfers work on their car for over 20 years. It's what they specialize in. They're going to save you time because you're going to be able to use their website quickly and easily, and they're going to save you money. 30, 50, even 100% more if you go to the auto part dealership or if you go to a big chain auto parts store, you know what I'm talking about. So don't waste your time. Don't waste your money. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. And while you're there, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, and that way they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. Still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still chatting here with director and promoter of the Nike Hoop Summit, Reggie Walker of Primetime Sports. Reggie, a few years ago, there was a Tuesday evening. I believe it was a Tuesday. It might have been a Wednesday evening. It was a midweek evening that still rings out in these streets. I'm talking about Portland Generals legend Payton Pritchard. You were in the building that night. What happens with Payton Pritchard at Nike Hoop Summit? I think this might have got him to the NBA straight up. Tell us, if you can, take us inside this legendary night.
Yeah, so during the week, as a break from beating up on each other during practice, we organize a scrimmage where the U.S. team plays against a group of players that we put together. Someone said we were like the Washington Generals, like who the Harlem Globetrotters used to beat up on. So we kind of embraced that and went with the team name, the Portland Generals. And don't get it twisted. Like we don't keep final score, but we do it by quarter, and we've definitely won quarters. I mean, we hold our own against those guys. But yeah, when Payton was a sophomore at Westland, fresh off the second state championship that they won, we had him, and we kind of just gave him the keys, and he was the point guard for the scrimmage team, playing against, I think, I don't remember which group of U.S. kids it was, but it might have been De'Aaron Fox and them. Like it was guys that are in the NBA,
Pros.
And Payton pros, and Payton held his own. I mean, he was awesome. He's got this like unique ability to like never show emotion on his face. It's almost like stoically robotic, and they're throwing junk presses at him and pressuring him, and he just stays stoic, handles his business, uses his guard arm to make sure like no one's taking the ball away from him, and he was awesome. I mean, straight up, he was amazing in the scrimmage. He had all the NBA scouts like, who's this little white kid out here balling against the USA team? People were tweeting about him.
It was big.
And that kind of, it was a big deal. Like it was huge for him. It kind of like cemented himself as like a national level recruit. I mean, everyone here knew about him, obviously, having won this 2 state championships in a row. But after that, his recruiting went from, some smaller stuff to like, the big boys are out. Like you got Michigan State, Villanova, Indiana, like a lot of the schools from like Midwest back east, like I think took notice to like the type of basketball player he is. And again, I mean, his recruiting and rankings, all that stuff really elevated. And that helped the US team prepare. If I'm not mistaken, I think that year, like we beat them a couple quarters of the scrimmage, and that really like opened up their eyes to like, okay, this week is, we can't, if we're having trouble against like the scout team, like we better be ready for Friday night. So that was cool. And then a couple years ago, so it was 2018, same team we put together. Kevin Porter, who's on the Houston Rockets right now, first round draft pick from Seattle. He wasn't selected as a McDonald's All-American, as a U.S. participant in the Nike Hoop Summit or the Jordan game. And he, went to Rainier Beach High School, which is a Nike school, played in the Nike UIBL, but wasn't picked for any of the three. We had him come down and play in the scrimmage against Team USA. And on the world team that year, RJ Barrett was like the alpha of the team, and like, the best player on the world team in that year. And we kind of had Kevin as a perfect, like, not necessarily clone, but like a similar body type, skill set as RJ.
Lefty, yeah, I was gonna say,
combo guard. Yeah, like lefty combo guard, like can score, likes to go to the basket. I think Kevin shoots it a little bit better, but so we had Kevin, and we kind of let him have the keys to the Portland General team. He cooked Team USA. He was easily the best player on the court. I mean, it wasn't even close. That was like the Cam Reddish, trying to think other guards and wings they had, but it was that high school class, like the 2018s. I mean, Kevin Porter didn't really do much at USC. I think he even got us some, off court stuff, but like his performance at the Hoop Summit was like legendary. I mean, that's ultimately what got him picked. So that's kind of a cool nuance to the game. And then obviously the game itself, I think Jamal Murray elevated his stock like through the roof. I think at one point during the week, I think Oregon, he was between Oregon and Kentucky, his recruiting that year. And I think it was even his mind was kind of set on Oregon. Like during the week, it was like, I think people were talking to him about it and he seemed at peace with it. After the game, I think Kentucky came in, they were like, no. Like we're the system that gets you to the NBA. Like we need you. And I think they gave him the whole full spiel and ultimately he ended up going there. But yeah, I mean, this week can do wonders for you in terms of your status and, ultimate like earning potential in the NBA. So
yeah, there's a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah, those are just some cool.
There's
stories.
a lot of eyeballs at the Blazers practice facility. As a young reporter, when I was first starting to do this, I remember walking in and I'm seeing like, Allen Houston and the whole Knicks brain trust, and I'm like, they're all here. It's like in a way that maybe I hadn't seen that. I'm not a big youth basketball guy. Like I'm not at the AAU stuff. I'm not calling coaches and all those things. I'm an NBA junkie.
Right.
I'm an NBA junkie. I wait a year and a half until these guys turn pro. But like this week is a funny big deal for that stuff. I would even say this week has really raised Roy Rana, who's the head coach of the international team. I think his prestige has really jumped up. Like he's an assistant.
Absolutely.
He's an assistant coach for the Kings. He was not that level of coach when he started working with Nike Hoop Summit, with the Hoop Summit international team, and he really has been. Like this is a lot of executives will be here this week. It's a big deal for everyone involved. There's also funny stuff like Nikola Jokic was in the Hoop Summit. He didn't look very good, and then it's like he was slow, right? Like he was not he was not special necessarily.
No, most people didn't think he was an NBA player.
Yeah,
and now he's one of the 5 best players in the NBA. Might win 2 MVPs in a row.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've said on the podcast he's like
awesome.
at worst like the 3rd best player in the world. Like he's and it's like
right.
and it's like he wasn't. So this week, even the guys who maybe aren't showing out and aren't having the Jamal Murray and the Kevin Porter Jr. and the legendary Payton Pritchard moments are playing against NBA dudes. Like it's just a bunch of guys who are going to turn pro. So I've loved the Hoop Summit. I believe my first ever day at Oregon Live, I shot photos on the baseline of Terrence Jones and the Nike Hoop Summit. I think that was my first ever media assignments with Oregon Live. Man, I might have done something before then.
Deep connection to it.
Yeah, no, this is I love the hoop.
Yeah, you might have had like the live chat going at the Les Schwab before that.
Yeah.
That was which one came first?
It's hard to. I don't really remember the whole timeline, but this was early on in my career. I started as a high school sports guy, and these were big. The Hoop Summit was a big deal, and I don't even think that Terrence Jones class was particularly good. Like I don't think that was like Wilcher and Jones. It's gotten a lot better. I think it's a bigger event. Would you agree it's a bigger event now than it's been?
Yeah, I think so. The profile is definitely raised, and I think USA Basketball has put more of an emphasis on their developmental program, like over the last 10 years, which has helped, their development. And then, Nike, who organizes the world team, I mean, they've always done a good job, but I think seeing the US put more emphasis into the game and their system has done the same on the global side of things. So I would agree with that.
Cool. Well, go get a ticket. You do not have to spend $200 to sit on Gucci Row, but if you do, one time, this is a real story from my friend. One time, sitting on the front row was Larry Miller and Worldwide Wes. They're sitting on the front row. These are big movers and shakers. It was when Larry Miller had just left the Blazers and was working for Jordan Brand. And William Wesley, who's now works for the Knicks, was like one of the most powerful deal brokers in the NBA, sitting courtside. And my friend went and got a picture with he got a picture with Larry Miller, and the person he asked him to take a picture was Worldwide Wes. It's one of my favorites.
That's a great story.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. I don't think he listens, but Brett, if you're out there, bro, I just roasted you on the podcast. I'm sorry. It's still hilarious to me. So like, this is a big deal. A bunch of fun people are going to be in the gym. You could go for $10 and you can go see a bunch of it.
Yeah,
you could go see a bunch of NBA players. I do not think you're going to find a more entertaining $10 ticket on Friday night. So go to the Moda Center. You'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're super fortunate to have the game in Portland. I mean, it's like you said, it's $10 ticket. You can go to NikeHoopSummit.com. We've got plenty left. And it is, take your family, go as a fan. And I think one of the things people, like to do is go back and be like, I saw this guy at the Nike Hoop Summit and 4 years ago, and he was doing it. Like, you get to tell those stories if you go to the game. And again, the game will be competitive. Tickets are cheap. We got plenty available. And as a city, we should embrace this. And if you're a Blazer fan, I mean, who knows the direction that we're going as a franchise right now. But, if we are, if we do the whole rebuild thing, like, these are some of the guys that are going to be talked about, like, that we draft, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So it's a chance to kind of get to see, the next crop of players before they enter the NBA.
Yeah, it's typically, I don't know if the streak is still going, but it was something like 10 consecutive years the number one overall pick in the draft had played in the Hoop Summit. Like, it's
14 number one picks over the course of time.
14 number one, yeah.
Come on, four MVPs, like 35 or 40 All-Stars. Like, it's the elite of the elite basketball players under the age of 19 in the world.
Yeah,
so,
and you'll be
pretty special that we have.
Yeah, you'll be in the gym with basically every NBA executive, not just Allen Houston. Shout out to H2O, but literally they all finished watching the Final Four. This is what they're doing this week. The whole NBA is in the arena. You could be there too for $10, or sit on Gucci Row for $200. So I'll just rep that one more time. Yep. If you got the cash, you could sit next to Worldwide Wes for $200.
Yeah, it's cost you $2,000 at a Blazer game. So it's a pretty good deal.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
Reggie, thanks so much for joining us. If you're looking for Reggie, go to an AAU game this summer and you'll see him. Go to the EYBL circuit and he'll be there. I guarantee. Reggie, thanks for joining us. I truly appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. We need the platform. So appreciate you having me.